On one hand, we have got our own ideas and wishes and feelings and values and criteria, and on the other hand, we have got forces, social forces, acting presently in the field. So if the social forces are so strong that according to you people want fascism, then inevitably the society will be fascistic. You may not like it, but that will happen.
The problem moves into the field of politics.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely, we are agreed.
Yeah. Politics means theory of power. Wherever you have got the power, you have got the politics. That is right. Yes, this is something which I sometimes say, that when they say that Islam is political, this means that Islam is, if it is strong, then it will become political. It cannot help it. I mean, wherever you have got power, wherever you have got a powerful body, a powerful community, it will become a source of politics. That is inevitable. I mean, if Christianity is not political, that is because it is not powerful in these countries. If it gets very powerful, it will have its own say in the field of politics. So beware. Okay? And fasten your seat belts.
What do you mean by authentic interpretation of text? And who will decide, which particular interpretation is valid and which is not?
Well, by authentic interpretation of the text, I mean those interpretations which comply with the criteria. But who is the decision maker as to which interpretation is the authentic? That is the community of experts. This is like the case of science, the case of philosophy. We have got no higher authority in science, in religion, in philosophy, nowhere. We have got only the community of specialists, community of scientists, community of philosophers and so on, community of scholars. Therefore, the community of scholars actually, this is again, I know, take the idea from, as we know, Thomas Kuhn, who talked a lot about the community of the scientific community. Really, that is the higher authority. And it is not a higher authority to be imposed on the community. It is a natural product of the progress of science. Therefore, in the community of the experts or specialists, it is decided which interpretation is to be considered as authentic and which is not. And that is the final thing. And as you know, since the community of specialists is changing, therefore, the decision as to the authenticity of an interpretation will change, and this has precedent in science. You know that theories were refuted in the past and then were rehabilitated later on by the community of scientists. This is something which happens all the time. Therefore, one interpretation we might reject it now, and it will be reaccepted and re-entered into the community later on. So this is something which is inevitable, and that will happen. But the higher authority, as I said, is the community of experts, of scholars. This is, in continuation of what I said to you, this means that once we enter the area of interpretations, we will have no longer any authority whatsoever. This is one of the major consequences of my position. You see, if you separate, if you keep religion and the interpretation of religion separate from each other, religion itself will become, so to speak, inaccessible. All we reach and all we attain will be a possible interpretation. And interpretation is always human. It is not divine. It is not sacred. It is not holy. Therefore, it is refinable, it is criticizable, it is redefinable, it is refutable, and all that. It has got all characteristics of any human product. Therefore, there also you have the community of experts to decide upon the authenticity or validity of the interpretation, rather than a higher religious authority. So here, in the case of the interpretation of religion, we face the same condition as we face in the case of science, in the case of philosophy, and so on.
Two more questions.
Two more questions, yes, no.
One, two.
During the course of this conversation, you based the theory, the
religio-political theory on epistemological presentations, yet we can see some ontological explanations seeping through. For instance, when you mentioned that after all it was God's decision to have multiple, for instance, or various prophets sent down to people. Now this to me sounds like the argument is based on some assumptions which are not commensurable among faith communities, and it's more monotheistic. Is there a reason for you to include that in your presentation? Why should you say that God decided to have?
No, not really. I do not invest much on that particular argument. It was just, by the way, that I mentioned it. I do not base my view and my conclusions on that particular premises. But mind you, that is something which is accepted, if not by all religions, but is a consensus among the believers of at least monotheistic religions, that this has been the case.
Did you mean to appeal to the belief of the religious community that is?
It is at least appealing to the believers of the divine or so-called heavenly religions, at least. There, as I said, I do not invest much on that particular. Nevertheless, it has got its own place. In the case of the believers who do believe in one of these monotheistic religions, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Islam, Christianity, and mind you, they have got a huge fellowship in the world. So, yeah.
Final question.
You've given us a definition of a religious society as one in which the majority are sincerely religious.
Yeah.
How do you measure sincerity?
Well, if I were the authority to say which society is religious and which is not, then your question would have some place to be asked. I am not the authority to say. This is by way of definition. Definitions always has to be precise, but decisions and instantiation, in the sense that to show which society is the instance of that particular definition, has got its own separate criterion. Of course, as I said, when it comes to the laws of family, of education, of in the case of the laws of political things and so on, there of course you can see the degree of the sincerity of the people. It is a matter of degree. It is not to be decided by any particular body, any particular committee, and I think it is something which you can feel it when you live in a particular society. It is not something to be gained and attained through some objective criteria. In the case of the human societies, this role of objectivity is very, very limited. Here, of course, you have to be a member, an element of the society in order to feel the sincerity or otherwise of the people. Therefore, I leave it to the members of the society, to the informants among the people in the society to decide upon it, and there also, and again, we have got a community of experts, of specialists, of informants, rather than a single particular higher authority to decide on this very sophisticated issue.
Well, I hope you'll join me in thanking Dr. Soroush for a most stimulating presentation.